Great to see all of you again. It's a tremendous pleasure, tremendous chus to be here once again. So we know that one of the mitzvahs that we have on the Yontif of Purim that's coming up tonight is Aleph Adar Sheni. So one of the mitzvahs that we have is Mishloach Manos, right? The pasuk tells us, Mishloach Manos ish l'reyehu. What's the reason for this mitzvah? A beautiful mitzvah. We all have a great time preparing the Mishloach Manos, sending the Mishloach Manos, eating the Mishloach Manos, and the theme, of course, you have to have a theme together with what you're dressing up as. What are you dressing up as this Purim? You know yet? You don't know yet? Okay, you still have a couple of weeks. So make sure, if it matches the Mishloach Manos, that's even better, but it doesn't have to. So what's the reason for this mitzvah? So there's really two reasons brought in the Mefarshim. The Trumas Hadeshen in Kufir Aleph, he brings that, and this is really the main reason in Halacha, that the recipient, the one who gets the Mishloach Manos, should have food for the Suda. We know it's supposed to have a Suda later in the day on Purim. This way, when you give Mishloach Manos to everyone, they are guaranteed that they'll have food for the Suda. Another reason, a beautiful reason brought by the Manos Levi. The Manos Levi was written by Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, the one who wrote L'Chadaydi. So he says that Haman claimed about the Yiddish nation, about the Jewish people, that they were mefuzar u'mefared bein ha'amim. They were spread out, and that he understands to mean that they didn't get along. They weren't nice to each other. There was machlaikas, one with another, and because of that, that's why they deserve to be destroyed, and don't worry about it. They don't have any schiyas, they don't have enough merit in order to save them. And the remedy was, Leich Knois, says Kol Yehudim. You gather all the Yehudim together and bring Achdus one with another, and that's how eventually we were saved. So we give Mishloach Manos to spread Achdus. Here, I'm thinking of you, this is for you, you're a friend of mine, and the person says, wow, thank you so much, that's so nice. Here, you could have one in return, and that's supposed to spread friendship. Actually, in Halacha, there could be 79 differences between these two reasons. Meaning one reason is that the person should have food for the Suda. The other reason is just to spread friendship. So let me ask you a question. Can you give clothing for Mishloach Manos? So you think, wait a minute, of course you can't give clothing. Well, it depends. According to the first reason, that to have food for the Suda, so clothing is not good enough. But to spread friendship? Fine, that'll be my pleasure. I'll be great friends with somebody who gives me a new suit and a new pair of shoes. Can you give something raw for the Suda? For Mishloach Manos? So as far as food for the Suda, it's not good enough because now they have to go cook it. It's not readily available. But to spread friendship, somebody gives me a raw piece of steak, I'll be their best friend. As far as that, it's not a problem. Let's say you give Mishloach Manos, and the person says, no, it's okay, fine, no thank you, I don't want to take it. So it could spread friendship, but they didn't get food for the Suda. So there's many, many differences. But those are two beautiful differences. And those are two beautiful reasons for Mishloach Manos. And that, the Mefarshim explain that is one of the major themes of Purim, of Leich Knois es Kol Yehudim. That we're supposed to bring the Achdus, and Purim is a time that even if a person is not getting along with somebody, now's the time to make amends, to accept apologies, to go out of your way to spread friendship with others. Why is it that so many times we don't feel that closeness to another Yid? And the answer is that we feel like, listen, I am me, and you are you, and what do I have to do with you? Okay, we'll get along, but to be friends, there's a phenomenal Gemara. You can look up the Gemara. It's a Gemara Menachas Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, together with Taisvis and the Shita Mekubetzes over there. A fascinating Gemara. And the Gemara says a story of two brothers that they were fighting over an inheritance. Their father passed away, and there was a Yerusha. So, like we know so many times, unfortunately, there comes a machlekes when it comes to Yerusha. Well, this one was out of the ordinary. What happened was like this. They had two sons, but one of the sons had two heads. He had two heads. So the machlekes was, this individual with two heads, are they one person, or is it two people? Meaning, the Gemara just talks about someone who had two heads, but Taisis brings, and the Shita Mekubetzes brings this story, and it makes a big difference. If it's one person, so they get it 50-50. If he claimed that, no, I'm two people, because I have two heads, so I should get 2/3. I should get 2/3 of the Yerusha. So how do you answer such a question? How do you prove if this person is one individual or are they two individuals? So it brings that this happened in the times of Shlomo HaMelech. And you know what Shlomo HaMelech did to figure it out? Shlomo HaMelech said like this, he brought this individual into the Beis Medrash, into the Bezdin. He took a brown paper bag, I don't know if they had brown paper bags back then, but he took something and he covered the head, one of the heads of this individual, and he poured hot water on the other head. And the other head started screaming out in pain. Not just the head that he poured that water on, even the one that didn't see anything. He screamed out in pain. Shlomo HaMelech said, well, you see from here that it's all one person. So that's not what he wanted to hear. So he only gets 50%, not 2/3. But that is the way we see if a person considers them like one individual with somebody else, or is it somebody separate? When somebody else is in pain, then that shows that you feel one with the other individual. And I have the schus of teaching in 4 different high schools / seminaries to girls in Brooklyn, in Passaic, where I live, and in Edison. And I have the schus as well of giving a Wednesday night shiur to post-seminary girls. Most of them were my students in high school, and now they're after seminary, so they want to have a shiur once a week. So they email me questions with halacha questions or hashkafa questions that they want discussed in the shiur. So one of the girls wanted to know, she said, it's anonymous, I don't know who it was, but she wanted to know, how does a person really know if they're moichel somebody? You know, somebody asks for forgiveness and you say, yeah, I'm moichel you. But how do you really know if the hatred is out of your heart? There's obviously an ernster girl, a girl who really, she wants to forgive somebody, but she's not 100% sure, has she really fully gotten to that point? So the halacha is like this. There's an aveira in the Torah of loisisna sachicha bilvavacha. It's a real aveira. It's not just bad midos to hate somebody. So the Mefarshim give guidelines of what is considered hatred or not. And the Poskim say, based on a famous pasuk in Mishlei, the pasuk says, "B'nefal oyevecha oyevcha al tismach." Don't be happy. So Reb Chaim Kanevsky says, Reb Scheinberg says, but it's already from earlier sources, that if something bad happens to somebody else, I'm sure none of you have ever had this, that somebody that you're not really, you're maybe a little bit jealous of, maybe somebody else that has the same job as you, and something bad happens to them, and it feels a little good. It feels a little good. Chas v'sholom, I would never do that to them. But once it happened to them, you don't feel so bad. You feel even a little bit happy. That shows that a person is transgressing this aveira. Then it shows you're an oyev. B'nefal oyevcha al tismach. Don't be happy. If a person is happy, that shows that they're not really at the point where they're supposed to be. You know, there was somebody who passed away recently. His name was Rabbi Katzenstein, Rabbi Edmund Katzenstein, and he was a mayol for many, many years. And I can tell you as a mayol, I know a lot of mayolim, not all mayolim in the tri-state area, without a doubt, but I got to know a lot of different mayolim. And I started off as a mayol in Eretz Yisrael, and I moved back to Passaic 12 and a half years ago, almost 13 years ago, and this Rabbi Katzenstein, I didn't even get a chance to be Menachem Avol because his son, Rabbi Pinchas Katzenstein, who was also a phenomenal mayol, he was sitting Shiva in Washington Heights, and I did not get a chance to go there. But I remember when I was starting off as a mayol, I started off in Eretz Yisrael, and they were always so nice to me. And the fact that I was a young mayol trying to break in, Baruch Hashem, my father, Pesach Krohn, has helped me break in. They were always so nice. Come into the office with me, you could watch. And I asked them questions, and they answered the questions, b'kavod gadol. That's a high madrega. A lot of people, when it comes to someone who has the same business as you, and they open up a shop, so to speak, right down the block in the same neighborhood, and you could just share your ideas, share advice, that shows ben adam l'chaverei. That shows noise ba'oil im chaverei. And that shows leich k'nois as kol Yehudim. And I was talking with you just a few moments ago about my uncle. My uncle, I don't know if you've heard of my uncle, Rav Krohn, my father's brother. And he was in Lakewood for many, many, many years. And he was a tremendous Oyev Yisrael. My father was masped in Lakewood, in the Lakewood Beis Medrash. I had a bris that morning, so I wasn't able to be by the Hespedim, but I got home in time to watch the Hespedim, live stream, and my father was nowhere near the first of the Maspidim, or the Lakewood Rosh Yeshivas were first, so I got home in time to watch my father's hesped. And my father said, one of the many beautiful things that my father said by the Levaya about his own younger brother, which is not an easy thing to do, to be masped a person's own younger brother. And he said a story that, I think he said it by the hesped, if I remember correctly, that my uncle was once in Eretz Yisrael, and he was in a taxi, and the taxi driver was no yarmulke, no tzitzis, and not frum. So my uncle sits in the front seat, and he says to the taxi driver, he says, anachnu achim, we're brothers. So the taxi driver said very strongly, he said, anachnu lo achim, we're not brothers. So my uncle said, what do you mean? Why are you saying that? He says, because you're frum, you're religious, and I'm not religious. So we're different than each other. So anybody who knows my uncle, this is classic, you're smiling, so I think you already know the story even, that my uncle said, no, I had a Rebbe that taught me that we're brothers. So the taxi driver said, who's your Rav, who's your Rebbe that taught you that we're brothers? So only my uncle could say this. He says, Hitler. Hitler taught me that we're brothers. What did he mean by that? He says, because obviously Hitler, Yamach Shemam, he didn't differentiate whether a person's religious, not religious, Litvish, Hasidish, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, it didn't make a difference. A person's a Yid, a person's a Yid. So he used it for the negative. There are those that say that the Nazis are part of Amalek, because it doesn't have to be a specific nation. The Rambam might sound like that. So perfect for Purim to say stories against the Nazis. And he says, we're brothers. And the taxi driver was so shocked by my uncle's statement that, I don't know if any of you ever have been in Israeli taxi drivers, then they don't drive necessarily all so slowly and calm, but he was spinning, he couldn't believe it, he started shaking, my uncle thought he was going to get in a car accident. And he says, the taxi driver told my uncle, you're one in a million. So my uncle said, no, I'm not 1 in a million. I'm 2 in a million, because we're brothers. And that's what he was trying to teach him. That it doesn't make a difference whether we're the same as each other, whether we're different than each other, but that is what Purim teaches us, that we're all together. Leich Chanai says, Kol HaYehudim, all the Yidden, no matter who they are. And the truth is that we know there's a famous Gemara. The Gemara says that in the times of Purim, after the Geula, Kimu v'Kiblu. Klal Yisrael was Makabel the Torah once again. The Gemara in Shabbos Daf Peiches tells us that we were Makabel the Torah once again. And we find there's something interesting. If you look up the pasuk of Kimu v'Kiblu, you'll notice that there's what's called a Kriyuk Siv. A Kriyuk Siv, there's no Vav. It says Kimu v'Kiblu without a Vav at the end. Why is that? So my father's Rabbi, Rabbi David Cohen, said a beautiful pshat. It says, we find in Parshas Yisrael that the pasuk says, Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged Hahar. So Rashi wants to know, a famous Rashi, why does it say Vayichan? It should say Vayachanu, is plural. Why does it say in Lashon Yachid? So Rashi says, Ke'ish achad b'leiv achad. They were all together, all Ke'ish achad b'leiv achad, all tzazamen. So said Rabbi David Cohen, we see that that's a prerequisite for Kabbalah HaTorah. It has to be Achdus in Klal Yisrael. It has to be Achdus in Klal Yisrael to have the true Kabbalah HaTorah. And that's why there's no Vav, because it says it as if it's Lashon singular. Kimu v'kibel. They all were Makabel it as one, all together as one. That's the way we were able to be Makabel the Torah. I want to tell you a beautiful story, one of my favorite stories when it comes to Chesed. There was a young Rav in South Africa. His name was Rabbi Tanzer. A young Rav, Rabbi Tanzer. And this Rabbi Tanzer, a very special man, a very special individual, and he had this shul in South Africa, but his father lived in Borough Park. He had a father who lived in Borough Park. And this father of his was getting older. He wasn't really able to take care of himself. And somebody called Rabbi Tanzer in South Africa and said, you should just know that you're not near your father, but I'm telling you, your father really, he can't really be by himself anymore. I really think that you should tell your father to come to you in South Africa and live by you. I guess his mother was not alive anymore. So he said, okay, thanks for letting me know. I don't see him from day to day. I don't have contact with him on a day-to-day basis. Good. So this elder, Rabbi Tanzer, he went to South Africa and he lived by his son. There was a man in the shul. His name was Reb Chaim. And this Reb Chaim, right away, he took a liking to what they called Old Man Tanzer. That's what they got to call him, Old Man Tanzer. And he came, he picked him up. The Rav was very busy, so he went to the house and he picked up Old Man Tanzer and brought him to shul, and he helped him carry his talis and his tefillin, and eventually this Old Man Tanzer got a little bit older, and he needed help putting on his talis and his tefillin, and he needed people to drive him to the doctor. His son was very busy, which I'm sure his son did a lot for him. But this Chaim Goldberg, he was with him day after day after day, taking care of him. Eventually, this Old Man Tanzer couldn't even go to shul anymore. He got even older, and this Reb Chaim, he came to the house, and he put tefillin on him in the house, and he davened with him in the house, and he took care of him. Eventually, this Old Man Tanzer got even older, and he passed away. This Reb Chaim came one time that he had to go to New York. He had to go to New York for a business conference. So he was in New York for a week or so, and he had to be in New York over Shabbos. Where's he going to go for Shabbos? He doesn't know anybody. He's from South Africa. He doesn't know anyone in New York. He figured he'll go to Borough Park. He'll go to Borough Park. He knows that there's a lot of Yidden in Borough Park. There's nowhere to park in Borough Park, but at least there's a lot of Yidden that he could spend with. So he's not going to go and ask somebody to stay for the whole Shabbos. So there's a hotel. He found a hotel in Borough Park, and he'll stay in the hotel. And he figured, listen, he's from out of town, right? So in out of town, everybody's very nice. So of course he's going to get invited out for the Shabbos meals. But just in case, he took, he bought 2 little challah rolls and a little bit of fish and a little bit of grape juice, but he's not going to need it. I'm saying he's just going to go to shul, and of course he's going to get an invitation. So which shul to go to? There's so many shuls in Borough Park. He has no idea. So he goes. He picks maybe the closest shul to the hotel. And this is nothing against Borough Park, Chas v'Shalom. I love Borough Park. I teach there. Borough Park's a wonderful place. Unfortunately, I have shuls like this in many different neighborhoods. And this shul, there was talking. They flew through the davening. It was like, whoa, this is not what he was expecting. And nobody said good Shabbos to him. Nobody said hello. He's like standing by the door, waiting for someone to invite him for the Suda. Nobody says anything to him. That's it. Everybody's gone. And he's left all alone. What's he going to do? So he leaves. He leaves the shul. He starts walking back to the hotel, and he sees another shul. He stops by the shul. He looks inside. They're singing, and it's beautiful. Everybody's davening. I mean, that's the way it should be. So he already davened. He already finished. He should go in and just stand there and wait for an invitation. He felt awkward. He didn't want to do that. So he just went back to the hotel, and he had his 2 little bulkalach, and he had the grape juice, and it wasn't kishmak. It wasn't what he was expecting. It wasn't what he was hoping for. The next morning, he's not going back to that same shul. He's going to go back to the shul that he passed by on the way home. He comes there, 8:30. There's like a few people there. He's like, is there a minyan? Sure, there's a minyan. Yeah, not till 9:30. Fine. Take a seat. Fine. There's plenty of seats available. He chooses a seat, takes out a chumash, and he learns until Shachas comes, until davening. He davens there. The davening was beautiful. People came over to him and said hello. They gave him an aliyah. After davening, they said Shalom Aleichem. They said, what's your name? Where are you from? He says, my name is Reb Chaim, and I'm from South Africa. So they said to him, oh, South Africa? Do you know Tanzer? He says, of course I know Tanzer. He's my Rav, Rabbi Tanzer. He's the Rav of the shul where I daven. He said, no, not the young, the old man, the elder Mr. Tanzer. He said, what do you mean, do I know him? Of course I know him. I took care of him for years. I helped him, and I helped him in shul, and I helped him in his house, and I took care of him so much. Of course I know him. We were very, very close. So he said, you know that he davened in this shul, and you were sitting in his seat. And he could not believe it. You know how many seats there are in Borough Park? You count all the shuls together in Borough Park, and all the seats that he could have sat in. And that's the seat that he sat in, the seat of old man Tanzer. And when they found out that he was a Yedid of this Rabbi Tanzer, they couldn't get enough of him, and they were fighting over him. Who's going to have him for the Suda, and who's going to have him for Shalosh Shuddis? And it was a pleasure. It was, and he realized that the Chesed was taking care of him. Maybe in the schus of the Chesed that he did for that old man Tanzer, that's what was going to take care of him. At least for the Shabbos day, he was able to get a beautiful Suda, and that was able to save his Shabbos. So many times, why is it that sometimes we hurt people's feelings? Everybody has had that at some point in their life, where you say something and by mistake you didn't realize, you didn't understand the situation, and a person hurts somebody's feelings. So many times it's not that we have bad intentions. It's not that we're trying to hurt somebody's feelings. Chas v'shalom. Okay, people have a temper sometimes and they say something not nice. Okay, but that's not for us over here. Usually it's something that's by mistake. But so many times it's just a matter of thinking twice. You know, they say common sense is not so common. So many times, it's just a matter of being careful of what you say. And my father always talks about when you come to be Menachem Mavel. A person has to sit Shiva. So you come, you want to, and people don't know what to say, especially if you don't really know. You didn't really know the nifter, you only knew the person that's sitting Shiva, or vice versa, so the person doesn't really know what to say. I know somebody that his father passed away on Matzah Yom Kippur. And as you're familiar, there's a Gemara in Ksubis that says that it's a tremendous chus. It's really special for someone to be nifter on Matzah Yom Kippur, because that's an indication that they had Tshuva, they had Mechila v'Kapara, and then they were able to go to the Eilam Emes. So he's sitting Shiva for his father, and I guess it's a short Shiva, right? Because it gets cut off by Sukkos. And someone's sitting there, and he says, wow, your father was nifter on Matzah Yom Kippur? Psh, what a schus. So the person said, Shkayach, Mitzvah Shem by you. And he's like, don't tell me what a schus. Now's not the time to tell him that, there was this schus. That same individual, Nebuch, sometimes these things happen to certain people. That same individual, his mother passed away a year later. And someone came to be Menachem Mavel for his mother. And the guy said, you can't make this up. The guy said to him, wow, last year was your father, this year is the mother. Who's going to be next year? I was like, what? Like, how could you say that? How could you say that to somebody? And it's just a matter of common sense. And so many times, it's not even that we said something wrong, but the person is so extra sensitive. I tell you, a woman one time told me, a tzaddikas of a woman. Her husband passed away. Her husband was a tremendous Talmid Chacham, and she was at the Levaya, obviously very, very, very difficult for her, and the Hespedim were phenomenal. So many beautiful things to say about this individual, and somebody made a long trip to come to the Levaya because he felt that it was important, and and he was very close to him, so he made the long trip. So he saw the wife, and he said to the wife, wow, the Hespedim, they were amazing. It was kedai to make the trip, just to hear the Hespedim. And she was so insulted. She told me, she said, what? It was kedai for my husband to die just so you could hear some good Hespedim? I was like, that's not what he said. He didn't say, chas v'shalom, that's not what he said. But that's how she took it. That's mamash how she took it. In her time of tsar, a person needs to be so careful. You can never know what the person really understands it as. And I'll tell you something interesting. Some of you I see some Bachram over here, maybe you're in Shidduchim, or those of you who are married, maybe you have children in Shidduchim. I'm not telling you, Chas v'Shalom, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I can tell you what my Rosh Hashiva made a rule. I'm I'm originally from Kew Gardens in Queens, so I learned in Yeshiva Shara Torah. So Shara Torah, not Sharei Torah here in Muncie, also a phenomenal yeshiva, but Shara Torah in Queens. So my Rosh Yeshiva was Reb Zelig Epstein. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Reb Zelig Epstein. He was my Rosh Yeshiva, my Mesad Kedushin. So when I was in Shidduchim, I was in the Mir for 3 years, and I didn't go back to Lakewood. I went back to Shara Torah, and I dated when I was in Yeshiva in Shara Torah. So I knew that Reb Zelig had a rule. He had a rule for the Bacham. He was not paskening for Gans Klal Yisrael. He was paskening for his Talmidim in Yeshiva, that when you date a girl, you have to date twice, at least twice. You can't date just once. You have to date just at least 2 times. So it happened once that I dated a girl, and I said no after 1 date. Now, I knew the Rosh Yeshiva had this rule, but I figured that the rule was because, listen, you never know. The crazier things have happened. You think, oh, it's not a chance, there's no way, but give it another chance. You never know. Try again. Don't give up so quickly. So I thought that was the reason. So this time I figured, no, this one is for sure. It's not. So I figured I could say no. Well, I found out that maybe that wasn't the reason. I mentioned it to somebody, and someone said, no, that's not why. It's because you can't hurt the girl's feelings. The girl, a lot of times the girl doesn't have a long list, so she gets told no after 1 date. That could really hurt her feelings. You have to go out a second time. So I said, whoa, I didn't realize that's why. So I spoke to my mashgiach, and my mashgiach said, yeah, that's the reason, because you can't hurt her feelings. And this happened during Elul Zman, right before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So I said, okay, I told my mashgiach, I said, okay, fine, now I'll know for the future, I won't do it again. He said, no, you have to go out again. I said, I don't know if Rabbi understands. I said, I already told the shadchan. The shadchan already told the girl no. He says, no, you can't hurt her feelings. Before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you can't hurt her feelings. And he made me go out again. And it didn't work. Then I said no after the second date. Fine, but at least, and you can, so many times when a person is in a compromised situation, a lot of girls out there, they don't have long lists. A lot of boys also don't have long lists. A person has to be so careful. That was such a lesson for me, from my Rebbe, from my Rosh Yeshiva, how a person extra sensitive. And Reb Zelig was all for Limud HaTorah, I can guarantee you that. And if I wouldn't have gone out on a second date, where would I have been? In the Beis Medrash learning. No. You have to be sensitive to other people. I'll tell you a story that happened once with my brother. And as I mentioned, I have the zchus of teaching halacha in several places. And one of the halachas that I teach is kosher kitchen, halachas of kashrus in the kitchen. As I was upstairs in the Beis Medrash before, so somebody called me with a question. They had a Bishalakum question. They had a cleaning lady in the house. They cooked something good. So, you get to learn halacha. You get to help people out, teaching halacha and answering shaylas. So one of the halachas that I teach when it comes to kosher kitchen is a halacha that I'm sure some of you are familiar with, especially those of you who have been to camp, that you're not supposed to keep food underneath your bed. Right? If you're familiar with such a halacha, you're not supposed to keep food underneath the bed. Good, a great discussion. Let's say it's packaged. Let's say b'di'evet. Good, all not for now. But you're not supposed to go to sleep with food underneath your bed. So at home, you think, okay, at home, well, I'm going to have food underneath my bed. But in camp, it's certainly very relevant because you don't have room to keep all the nash that you buy in the canteen. So good, so you keep it underneath. You're not supposed to do that. So then my brother one time was flying from Eretz Yisrael to America, or from America to Eretz Yisrael, one or the other. And what happened was he was getting ready, putting on his seatbelt, getting ready to start the flight, and a Yid behind him taps him on the shoulder and says, Shalom Aleichem. Says, Shalom Aleichem. He said, can I ask you a favor? So my brother said, yeah, well, what can I do for you? He says, I have food. And where do you have packaged? So where do you keep it? There's 2 choices. Either you could keep it on the overhead bin on top of you, or underneath the seat in front of you. So he asked my brother. He says, I have a package of food. I want to keep it underneath the seat, underneath your seat. Can you do me a favor? Can you not sleep the whole flight? So my brother, and this was like one of these overnight flights that, like, if you don't sleep now, that's it. You're jet lagged, like for the rest of your life. So my brother's like, I have a better idea. Maybe keep the food underneath your seat instead of my seat. So, that was insensitive. So my brother said, listen, I'm sorry, and I'm not asking. But that's just a matter of just like thinking twice before a person says something, before a person asks something. A person, sometimes a person just needs to think. Who was the person that we find in the Torah that the most cared for somebody else? And that was Moshe Rabbeinu. We're approaching Zayin Adar. And as far as Yartzeit is concerned, it's a great discussion in the Paiskim. If a person is nifter during Adar, so what is the Yartzeit when there's an Adar Rishon and an Adar Sheni? So quite possible by Yartzeit it's by Adar Rishon. But Zayin Adar is definitely not far. Either it's in a week or it was 3 weeks ago. But either way, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu, his Yartzeit is Zayin Adar. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu chosen to be the one to lead Klal Yisrael? So the pasuk says, by the sneh, by the burning bush, so it says that Hashem saw kisar lirois, that Moshe Rabbeinu turned to see. Says the Medrash, a famous Medrash, that Moshe Rabbeinu, he turned to see what other people needed. What's the exact lashon of the Medrash? The Medrash says, Sar zeh lirois b'tzaran shel Yisrael, that Moshe Rabbeinu turned to see the tsar of Klal Yisrael, lefikach rayu lias raya aleihen. Therefore, he is fit to be the shepherd over them. And Rav Chatzkel Levenstein points out that why was Moshe Rabbeinu chosen? Not because of his gadlus in Torah, not because of his chokhmah, but because he was sar lirais. And all the gedolim, all of our gedolim, they're all sar lirais, to look and care for somebody else. Just last week, I heard a beautiful vart in the name of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And Rabbi Yisrael Salanter started the Musar movement. So he was teaching all his Talmidim Musar. Well, he had one Talmud by the name of Rabbi Petterberger. Rabbi Petterberger was a gadol in Torah. He had such gadlus in Torah. So those who were opposed to the Musar movement, they begged Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. He said, leave him alone. Leave one. Let him vax. Let him grow in Torah. Everybody else you could teach Musar, but let him grow in Torah. Let him be a gadol b'Torah. Why do you have to, so to speak, chas v'shalom, bother him with Musar? So Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said a gevaldik vart, and I teach Hilchos Brachos in 11th grade in Beis Yaakov Pesach, so I enjoyed this word very much. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said that there's a halacha in Hilchos Brachos that if you have two foods that are the same bracha as each other, and one of them is shalem, one of them is whole, but the other one is much bigger, which one do you make a bracha on? What's the halacha? Says the Shulchan Aruch, you make the bracha on the shalem. Even if it's a small bulkula, but you have a big challah, but it's cut in half. You make the one on the shalem. So he says, we see from here that shleimus comes before gadlus. That's a beautiful word. Shleimus comes before gadlus. So he says, I'm going to teach him Musar. He could grow to be a gadol b'Torah, which he did as well. But shleimus comes before gadlus. And I think that fits perfectly with this idea of Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein, that's why Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen, because shleimus comes before gadlus. Anybody know who is Moshe Rabbeinu a gilgul of? Who is he a gilgul of? What? So he was a gilgul of Noach. And as a matter of fact, the Chasam Sofer points out that there was 4 people that had the same Neshama. What does the word Neshama stand for? Nun is for Noach, Shin is for Sheis, Mem is for Moshe, and Hey is for Hevel. So if you go chronologically, it was Hevel. Hevel was killed by Cain. Then was Sheis, the same Neshama. Sheis was Noach, and Noach was Moshe. What was it that Noach had to be misaking, that Noach had to fix, that he had to come back? So the Medrash says that Noach was really, in a way, at fault for the Mabul. Who knows? What did Noach do wrong? What didn't he do when it came to the Mabul? He didn't daven for Klal Yisrael. He didn't stick up for Klal Yisrael. The Medrash says Noach should have said, I'm not going in the Teva. I'm not going in the Teva unless you save Klal Yisrael. He didn't do that. He just said, okay, I tried my best, and I tried to teach everybody for the past 120 years. They didn't listen. Okay, me and my family, will be saved. It's a shame about the rest of Klal Yisrael. He should have stuck up for Klal Yisrael. And because of that, he came back as a gilgul as Moshe Rabbeinu. Where did Moshe Rabbeinu overcome his Nisayan, that he stuck up for Klal Yisrael by the Maaseh Egel. By the Egel Azav, that Klal Yisrael did the Egel, what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? Hashem, you have to be mechaper, you have to be meichel them. If not, macheni na mesifrecha, asher kasafta, wipe me out. What was the Mabul called? The Mabul was called Mei Noyach, the waters of Noyach, because Noyach was responsible. And Moshe Rabbeinu took the words Mei Noyach, Mem Yud Nun Ches, and he switched around the letters to Macheni. Mei Noyach is Macheni, and that's where he overcame this Nisayan. Many, many connections between Moshe Rabbeinu and Noyach. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu called Moshe? What does Moshe come from? Which water was he saved from? From the Mabul. He was saved from the Mabul because Noach was saved from the Mabul. What was Moshe Rabbeinu? Little baby Moshe. What was he put in? A basket. What does the Torah call it? A teva. It's usually not called a teva. It's called a tena, a sal. It's called a teva. Because Moshe and Noach were saved by a teva. Many, many more similarities. The 40 days of the Mabul could have been the 40 days of Kabbalah Satira. There's many, much more. I was thinking, the connection, Moshe Rabbeinu told Hashem, I'm not the one to lead Klal Yisrael. And Hashem said, no, you're going to be the one, And Moshe Rabbeinu said, I told you already from the first time that it's not my thing, it's not my personality. So the Mefarshim are bothered. What do you mean I told you already from before? This is the first time Hashem is speaking to Moshe. I think it's from Noach, from the times of Noach already. It's not my personality to stick up for everybody and to speak out and to lead. I'm not that type of guy. And Hashem said, no, this is your job. And Moshe Rabbeinu overcame because he was a Sar Lirois. He stood up for Klal Yisrael. And that's something that we see of Moshe Rabbeinu and Zayin Adar this time, all perfect. Moshe Rabbeinu was born on Zayin Adar. So what day was his bris? On Purim, right? Okay, so the Gemara in Citrate says he was born with a bris, and maybe his toughest dam bris was on Purim. That's why there's so many children, so many people named Moshe Mordechai, because if someone was born on Zayin Adar, the bris is on Purim. So good. So as a moil, I like that observation. That's why you have so many Moshe Mordechais. But that's what this time of Adar is teaching us, and that's one of the main themes that we need to learn from Adar. Let me end off with one more story. Hundreds of years ago, there was an incident in Greece, in a city called actually Syracuse in Greece. And what happened was like this, that there was a community in Greece that there was a king, the king of Sicily, would come to different towns that he ruled over. And the way it was then is that when the king came to town, all the people in the town, Jewish, not Jewish, it didn't make a difference, they had to come out and greet the king and show honor to the king. How do the Jewish people show honor? So the king knew, that they had to bring out the Sifrit Torah. Now, there was 12 shuls in Greece, in that area, in Syracuse at the time, and each one of them, they were all Sephardi. So those of you who are familiar, you ever daven in a Sephardi shul, the Sefer Torahs that they have are not like our Sefer Torah. They're gorgeous. They're huge, the big case, and there's the gold or silver on the outside with a pareiches. It's beautiful. They would come out to greet the king. Now, there's halachic issues with moving Sifrei Torah. It's not so easy in halacha to just move Sifrei Torah wherever you need. So they realized, we have a great idea. We'll take out the Sifrei Torah from the cases. We'll go out with these beautiful cases, but it'll be empty. The king won't have any idea, and that's what they did. Every time the king came to the city, they knew in advance, they took out the Sifrei Torah from the inside, they closed it up, and they came out beautiful with the Sifrei Torah. They had no idea that it really was empty. And it was a big secret. Well, there was this one Yid, Nebuch, that he went off the derech. He went off the derech, he became an apikoros. And he wanted to get back at the Yidden. Those are the worst. He wanted to get back at the Yidden, and he told the king, he says, you know what? The Jews, they really hate you. They despise you. when they come out with this Sifrit Torah, it's really empty. You know why they do that? Because they don't like you. They pretend as if they like you, but they really don't like you. Now that wasn't the truth. They liked the king very much. It's just that halachically they didn't feel that it was the right thing to do. But he said, no, it's really because they hate you. He says, yeah, I'm going to test it out. And he told them that in a week he's coming, and he wants them to come out with the Sifrit Torah. The night before the king came, the Rabbi in one of the shuls had a dream. And a man came to him in the dream and said that tomorrow the king is going to come, he's going to test you. He's going to tell you to open up those Sifrit Torah. You better make sure not to take it out. And he woke up in the morning, and he quickly ran to the other Gabayim of the 12 shuls, and amazingly, some of the other shuls, some of the other Gabayim had the same dream. And they kept the Sifrit Torah inside, the klaf inside. The king had them open it, and the king was mortified. He didn't trust them. Really, it was inside the whole time. And he was so embarrassed, and he felt so bad that he was like, choshev b'ksherim, so to speak. So he gave them 3 years that they don't have to pay any taxes. And this apikeres, he had him hanged in the city square. And they made it into a small Purim. It happened on the 17th day of Shvat, and it was called Purim Apulu, which is like the Purim Katan, like a small Purim. And they made like their own Megillah, very talented. Balayla hu nadada shnas, of the Gabbai, and they made a whole thing that he couldn't fall asleep, and they made it into their own Purim Katan. They had to show honor for their king. We know, the Mefarshim tell us, that whenever it says Hamelech in Megillas Esther, it's really deep down, it's referring to our king, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the best way, one of the best ways to show honor to our king, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to show love to everybody else. We're all children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bana matam l'Hashem alekeichem. When you give honor to a person's children, that shows honor to the father. When you're nice to a child, the father loves that, the mother loves that. That is the lesson of Purim. Bez Hashem, through Achdus and Avas Yisrael, will be able to take this time of Adar, Smichas Gula Legeula, that's why you have Purim and Adar Sheni, and will be able to go into the month of Nisan, B'Nisan Yigal, B'Nisan Hasidin Ligal, and Bez Hashem, we should all see the Gula in our time. Thank you very much.